Well, I like to start out with something funny, and I heard a cute joke, and it was about, and you know, this isn't necessarily our belief system, but they're always fun to tell, and they do give us some kind of a metaphor for life. So 2 men died at the same time. One was a taxi cab driver, and one was a devout minister. So as they got to the Golden Gate, Peter asked the name, and the first one, and he said, well, I am Max, and he said, I'm a taxi driver from New York. And St. Peter said, welcome, Max. He said, here is a golden robe and a golden staff. He said, I'm so proud of you. You go that way. So the minister came up, and he said, I'm John Smith, and he said, I was the main minister at St. Mary's Church. And St. Peter looked at him, and he gave him a woolen cape and a wooden staff, and he said, you go this way. And the minister said, what is this about? I'm the one that served God all the time. I'm the one. And St. Peter said, well, you know, when you spoke, people fell asleep. But when he drove, people prayed. That's a good one. So the title this morning is, What Has Love Got to Do with It? And that comes from the Tina Turner song. Many of you remember What Has Love Got to Do with It? So Charles Fillmore, who is the co-founder of Unity, in his 1919 talk, which was really on social justice, which is a marvelous thing, isn't it? To think that in 1919 he was talking about social justice. However, within the talk, within that sermon, he talks about love. And he says we all have the capacity to love. He said we have different avenues of the church, of our heart to love. He also says all that is required of men, forgive me, it's men, women, we know, is he conducts himself in a loving way. Now that's really something, isn't it? That's all that's required of us, is to conduct ourselves in a loving way. Is that easy? Oh, some days it's wonderful. And other days we think, good Lord, what has happened? So many philosophers and theologians through the years have said, the only question we really will be asked when we cross over is, how well did you love? That's it. Very simple. How well did you love? So Jesus, who in Unity and many other, obviously, faith traditions, is our way shower. And never in the New Testament did Jesus say, worship me. What Jesus said was, follow me. And he said that again and again and again. Follow me. Do as I do. And he gave us so many examples. He said, oh, I know what he said. He said, be in the world, but not of it. So how do we do that? I'm in the world. I'm dealing daily with all kinds of things. Some days more than others. Some days heartache, some days sorrow, some days joy. How can I stay in this world and yet be above it? Well, we're above it when we can see the behavior, not the behavior of the person, but we can see the God self. And that's where Namaste comes in. When we do Namaste, it's the God in me meets the God in you. And if we can keep that in mind for each and every person that we meet, regardless of the behavior, then we've got it made. Then what Emma Curtis Hopkins said, who was the teacher of teachers who taught the Fillmores, she said, we keep a high watch. We stay above the circumstance. Now, is that easy? Oh, let me tell you, it is not. But if we can remember, Jesus, the way shower, said love. That's all that counts. I am here to show you the way. I am your way shower. And so we ask ourselves, or I've been asking myself, how interested am I really am in following the teachings of Jesus? How interested? Not just sometimes, but all the times in my life. And I go back to the story in Luke of Mary and Martha. And they were sisters. And Martha invited Jesus for dinner. And when he got there, Mary kneeled at Jesus' feet. And she was waiting for him. She was talking to him. She washed his feet in oil. And Martha was furious. And she finally said, Jesus, she said, I am doing all the work here. And all Mary has done was just sit at your feet. And he said, Martha, that's what it's all about. You are busy doing things. She is busy listening and paying attention and loving me. So where is our attention? You know, we pay attention to our intention. Is our intention to love more? Is our intention to truly follow the teachings of Jesus? And is our intention not just to follow the teachings of Jesus in other people, but he said the first and greatest commandment is love the Lord thy God with all thy heart and all thy soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. So as we are loving God with all of our hearts and all of our souls, Jesus showed us the path. He said, no matter what we love, no matter what we forgive. And the only time in the Bible or the New Testament that we see Jesus lose his temper was when the Pharisees were desecrating the temple. And that's when he got angry. But I don't believe the anger was necessarily at the heart of the Pharisees. The anger is their behavior. And if we can separate the two when we get upset, can I love this person even though their behavior is just not what it's supposed to be right now? Can I see the God self in them? Can I infuse my everyday with loving kindness, as the Buddhists would say? Can I infuse my day with love of myself? You know, that is the big thing. In Exodus, we read the story where Moses saw a burning bush. And the bush kept burning and burning. He tried to put it out, and the bush kept burning. He couldn't understand it. So he went over to the bush and wondered in awe of this bush that kept burning. And the voice of God came through the bush, and he said, Moses, take your shoes off. And he said, now Moses, I want you. Now Moses was a stutterer. People that have studied the Bible know that he had a speech impediment. And God said to Moses, he said, I want you to go to the Pharaoh. Now Moses at this time was a shepherd. And he said, I want you to tell the people, the Pharaoh, to let my people go. And Moses said, me, God? You know, I can't speak properly. How can I go to the Pharaoh? And Jesus said, or God said, Moses, I will speak through you. So what a lesson for all of us. I will speak through you. Are our words loving and kind? And do we stop before we say anything? Is this the loving thing to do? Is Jesus my way shower? Can I open my heart wide enough to ask myself, am I going to allow God to speak through me in a loving way? And the second part of what he said to Moses, he said, Moses, don't you know that where you stand is holy ground? So what a concept for us as we leave this month that's dedicated of all the months to the heart, even though every month is, but in our calendar, Valentine's. Do we realize that where we stand is holy ground? So often we put ourselves down. We desecrate ourselves. Why did I do this? Why? I'm ashamed of this. I'm scared of this. All the things that we could have, would have, should have done. Jesus never did that. He loved himself enough. Now, this wasn't a man that was born into riches, and sometimes we think, well, you know, I didn't come from a home where it didn't matter. Jesus was a carpenter, and he went forth in the love of God. He knew that there was within him, that spark of divinity, which we talk about, the first unity principle, that spark of divinity, that if he opened to that, all things were possible. And that's our promise. How well can we love in this lifetime? And if that's the only question we're ever asked is, how well did you love? How are we going to answer on a scale of 1 to 10? Well, I don't know about you, Dave, but some days it's a 3 for me, right? And other days I'm just in the most loving space. And how do we stay there? How do we stay there? We stay there because we are in the world, but we're going to be of it. Because that's what we're called to do here in Unity. That's what Emma Curtis Hopkins told us. Keep that high watch. Don't look at the behavior. See beyond the behavior of people, and can I love them anyway? And if we're all one, which is a unity teaching, there's only one life here, then God is in that person too. So how can I look beyond the behavior and love you anyway? And that's a challenge. But no one said this life was going to be easy, did they? They said this life, Jesus said, this life will have challenges. But can we love more, and can we love through this challenge? So the next question I would like to ask, is Alexis yesterday, that seminar was fabulous. Megan was there, Sharon and Rick were there. It was one of her best seminars. I hope if she gives another one, you'll attend. Denise was there. So the question is, when something happens, is not why. Because why is a spin question. And we can ask ourselves, till kingdom come, why did this happen? And every now and again, we'll get an answer. Well, I know why this happened. But the majority of the time, why did this happen? Well, the question should be, what is this happening for? What can I look in myself that this is happening for? Now, I don't know about you all. January and February have been a very challenging month for me. And I know many of you lost a beautiful wife that you loved all so dearly, loss of a niece, loss of a father. So I'm not trying to compare myself, but for me, January and February, I'm going to tell you this story, and it will only take me an hour and a half, so just bear with me. Sometimes I feel like it. It started out in the early first week of January. Some of you were here when I shared about a daughter-in-law that hadn't allowed me to see my grandchildren in 7 years. And I really had worked on this and worked on seeing the child within her, the hurt child. So I think it was about the 3rd of January, I got a knock on my door. And I opened the door, and there she was. And my heart leapt. And I said, come on in. And she said, no, I just want to tell you what a horrible person you are. Oh, I'm not kidding. And how you've ruined my life. And I thought, this is a nightmare. This is a dream. And it got to the point she said, you are going to regret this. So at that point, I asked her to please get off my porch. I know, the very spiritual thing to do. But I got in the house and I thought, I've done all of this work, and all of a sudden, I just thought I had it healed. And it was like the universe said, you think you got it healed? Let's do this one more time. So, to tell you I've got it all healed again would probably not be true, but I'm working on it. And I'm working about that hurt child within her that feels that she has to lash out. That's the first week of January. The second week of January, my son lives in Pacific Palisades, California. He's lived there for 35 years. And it's an area between Santa Monica and Malibu. It's a beautiful area. 23,000 people live there, and the Palisades burned down. There was maybe 5 houses left. Other than that, they were all gone. People were left homeless. It took my son and daughter-in-law 3 weeks even to find a place to live. So we had that going on, and my heart broke for him. They put so much into that house. And, it'll take years to replace it. And we know with God it's all possible. But in the human realm, it may take a while to replace that village. So then I have 4 grandsons. 2 of them have had some real problems, not with the law, but health challenges. Serious. One of them is still in Presbyterian hospital. So then, to add insult to injuries, this story goes on. I got a call from someone I love dearly on Friday, and just with a zing, right to my heart. So I sat down, I went to my living room, and I thought, I didn't go to why, which was really great for me. I said, what am I learning here? What is my lesson here with all of this happening? And I'm not saying you all haven't been through so much worse, but this was a tough 6 weeks. And the answer was, stay in the loving. Stay in the loving. And I thought, well, I'm not quite sure how I do that. And the thing was, let it go. Let it go, stay in the loving, choose love always. You know, Charles Fillmore believed in reincarnation. That's optional, but Charles Fillmore did, and he's the co-founder of Unity. And sometimes I think, I don't want to do this again. So I really want to forgive. I want to be more loving. Howard Thurman wrote the most beautiful book. He was the first black dean of any university, brilliant, brilliant man. And he wrote book after book of essays. He taught Martin Luther King. He taught Martin Luther King's daddy. He was absolutely a brilliant mind. And his one question is, how can I be more loving in my heart? You know, that's all it's about. How can I be more loving in my heart? So we let go and we let God. But you know, sometimes when we're hurt, right, we ruminate about it. If we ask ourselves why, we can ask ourselves why. We can go over it and over it and over again till we really injure our own health. You know, our energy goes down, our vitality, because we have gotten lost in the problem. My daughter this morning sent me something. I'd just like to read it to you. It says, it appears that a party of hunters being called away from their camp let the campfire unattended with a kettle of water burning on it. Presently, an old bear crept out of the woods, and seeing the kettle with its lid dancing about on top, he promptly seized it. The boiling water scalded him badly, but instead of dropping it, instantly he proceeded to hug it tightly, this being the bear's idea of defense. Of course, the tighter he hugged, the more it burned him, and the more it burned him, the tighter he hugged it, and so on in a vicious cycle to the undoing of the bear. It says, this illustrates perfectly the way in which many people hug their difficulties to their bosoms by constantly rehearsing them again and again and again. So how often do we do that? You know, Gandhi once said, it takes, let me think how he said that. He said, only the brave can forgive. The weak can never forgive. You know, so how brave are we? And how much can we forgive? And how much can we stay out of the why? Why did this happen to me? Why? And spin and spin and spin and sit down and say, what is this teaching me? And the question that I asked myself the other day is, I don't know what it's teaching me. I was trying to think, you know, I guess that I got into the, you know, what, why? And all that came through was be loving in your heart. Your job this time is to love, simply to love, to accept, to look beyond the behavior and know that if God is there, God is in the darkness, God is in the light, God is everywhere present. And if I believe that, and if I can live it to the umpth degree of my life, then I have to know God is there somewhere. God is with my grandsons right there. The one is suffering in Presbyterian hospital, which just breaks my heart. He's 18 years old. It breaks my heart, but God is right there too. The divine physician is everywhere, in the hospital, with anybody ill. There's a power and a presence in the darkness and in the light. We can see it in the light very clearly. Of course I can see it. This is a wonderful day. This is the day that God has made. I'm here to rejoice in it. But what about those dark days? Is God present to us? Can we see the presence of God? Can we say, what am I to learn here? I'm to learn acceptance. Jesus accepted what was going on. He never judged, he never questioned. He was here for God. And he always said, follow me. Don't worship me. Follow what I do. The Father and I, he said, are one. And he also said, you are my brothers. You are my sisters. So it's not just Jesus saying this. He is inviting us into the Godship that he lived. So each one of us, Charles Fillmore says, has that spark of divinity within us. Let it burn. Let it light up our whole life. Let that fire burn so deeply that everybody that sees us is seeing something wonderful. I did a memorial last Saturday, and she had many, many years in a 12-step program. They talked about it openly. She was in AA, and she helped so many people, hundreds of women and men. But one thing they said about her, as her sponsees came up, they said she glowed. She glowed. And I thought, of course she glowed, because she was exuding the presence of God through her. What they saw, they didn't know what they were really seeing. They saw she glowed, but what they saw was the presence of God working through her to them. So how much will we glow this week with the presence of God? Because God is light. How much light will we carry, no matter what the circumstances is? That's what we're called on to do. How does God work? God works through us. That's it. God is the divinity within us. God works through us. And when we stop expressing that God within us through our fear, through our doubt, and through our anxiety, the glow stops. We are here for everyone to see us, to see something special. They may not know it, but it's the God self of us. And that brings peace, that brings blessings. People want to be near us. They may not know why, but there's something special about us because we are love. We are love, and we're here to be loved. And the third thing I would like to ask us, in Tina Turner's song, she said, who needs a heart when a heart can be broken? We've all had our hearts broken, haven't we? For sure. But let's see. Let's go back to the Psalms. If my heart is broken, where do I go? Well, the Psalms tell us, I will never leave you or forsake you. I am with you always. And in Hebrews it says, God heals the brokenhearted, and he mends their wounds. So when our heart seems to be broken, I've known many people, I've done it myself. I've been married twice and had a broken heart. And I thought, I don't want to do that again. I don't want my heart to be broken, because what if this time I don't recover? But if we go back to the promises that I will never leave you, I will never forsake you. I am, as Sandra said this morning with Popeye, I am what I am, and that is all that I am. And that's the only time God ever identified himself, or itself, however we want to perceive God, is what is God's name? And he said, I am. I am. That I am is within us. That I am is our safety net. We don't have to be afraid if our heart is broken. In the minute, yes, my heart is broken. But if I've got this spiritual understanding and knowing that God is always present in the darkness, in the light, then I can say with great assurance that he heals the brokenhearted and he mends their wounds. And I can also lean on the promise, I will never leave you. I will never forsake you, because you are with me always. You are my beloved, in whom I am well pleased. I am your way shower. Follow me, follow me. Follow me in the path of love. Follow me in the path of forgiveness. Open your hearts wide. So I'd like to conclude with my favorite verse from Isaiah. And he says, "But those who wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up on wings of eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint." I am what I am, and each one of us are the I am that I am. So we finish this month with love, with open hearts. How can I be more loving in my heart? That is the question. And to know that God will never, ever, no matter what the circumstance, no matter how dire, never, ever forsake us. I am in the darkness, and I am in the light, and I am the love that you are. And so it is. Amen.